So this month's training is about pricing, and I wanted to do a couple of things. One is go over some key principles, and this sort of leads on from the previous pricing module, which is in the Carteret area, which is an introduction to pricing. So this sort of moves on from there. If you haven't watched that or you need a refresher, feel free to watch that back. So I'm going to cover some key principles, and then I'm going to talk about some of the mindset stuff around pricing. And then my idea was that we could have some time where you could ask some questions and I could perhaps help with anything in particular that's coming up for people. So I'm going to start with some key principles. And one of the key principles to keep in mind is that your pricing has to be based not really around what you feel that you should be paid or what you think you're worth. None of this in the corporate sector is about personal value or personal worth. What we're looking to charge is a combination of two things: market rates and our market position. So those are the two key principles that you're basing your pricing on. Market rates, that's what the market are paying for what you offer, and your market position, and that is how you've decided to position your business in the market you're in. And I'm going to go into a bit of detail about those two things, but that's what we always, whenever we're struggling to come up with pricing and people like shop around with numbers, the thing we always want to come back to is, what are the market rates? What is my market position? Those two things help us make that decision, because we can get quite emotive about the money aspect of it. And I sense that when I'm working with people. I feel it myself when I'm doing my own pricing. Oh, let me just let people in. And I know that it can be quite emotive. And this is a really good way of just immediately taking it back to, hang on, this is about business. What are the two things I need to remember? So market rates and market position. Welcome Olivia and Zane. Don't worry, we've not done too much without you. We've just got started. So, and here's Sonal coming. So I'm just going to continue. We're talking about pricing this month, and we are recordings, just to let you know that. And I'm talking about the fact there are two key principles that you want to keep in mind when it comes to figuring out your pricing. I'm going to talk about those next. So market rates, I've got some notes here because I don't want to miss anything, because it's a little bit technical, this first element of it. So when it comes to market rates, it's really important that for each of the services or products that you offer, that you have an idea of what the market rate is. So what are big corporates and large businesses and public sector organisations, what are they paying for the type of thing that you offer? That's the market rate. And you want to do a few things to find out what the market rate is. Now, if you're bringing something completely new to the market, just going to stick people on mute, then if you're bringing something completely new to the market, you might have to do a little bit of research to figure out what's the closest thing, what's the most like what you've got, in order to get those market rates. So ways that you're going to get market rates, and I would recommend that you have a folder or a spreadsheet or some way of recording this information. Really, really critical business information. Do your research. So can you see on other people's websites what they're paying? Can you see what people are charging? Look around, shop around. Sometimes when you go to expos and conferences, if you pick up brochures and things like that, you'll actually find published information. Not always, but it's worth having a look to see, like, what information can you get. Another way to find out market rates is ask your customers. So if you've got big corporate customers, you can sometimes ask them, what are the rates you pay for X service or X product? And you can also ask their procurement teams if they have something called benchmark rates. So you can say to them, can you share with me your benchmark rates for this service, because I'm looking to be in that range. And what benchmark rates are is when big organisations basically collect all the data of what they pay for a number of different services or products, create a bit of an average, and then they can say we're paying, you know, sometimes they'll give you what they call a spot rate, which is the midpoint, so the average, or they'll tell you what the range is in the benchmark. So they might say for So something like mine, for project consultancy services, we're paying between X and X per day. So you can ask for benchmark rates. Some companies actually publish benchmark rates. It's worth always looking to see them. And there are some sort of sector organisations will actually publish the benchmark rates for the services in that industry. Bit trickier to find, but you can always look for them, and obviously putting in benchmark rates for, and then put the Google term in, and then the country, because that's generally quite specific, will bring you up some of those results. Other way you can do it is just by talking to potential clients and clients about what you think, what they think they'd be willing to pay for a particular type of service and product. So you can do that almost as like a bit of a market research or a focus group, where you can say to people, I'm bringing something new to market and I'd love to have a chat about the value attached to it. So you're almost depersonalising it by saying, I'm not selling you this, I'm just thinking about what this might look like in this sector and what sort of value you would attach to it. So that's a really useful way. You would normally have to have either a relationship with a customer or know that they're interested. Like, a stranger's not really going to get into that level of discussion with you unless it's perhaps in a focus group. So you could do a focus group around it. And then the final way, the bit that everyone hates, but we've all got to do it, is a bit of trial and error. It's sometimes we just have to put out the prices and see how they land. And if someone comes back and says, you're way too expensive, we've got a decision to make, and I'll talk about that in a minute in this second element. And if they say you're too cheap, well, lesson learned, put the prices up. That's a way to do it. And there'll be times where you will win or lose work and you just won't always know exactly if it was on pricing. If you ever lose out on work, it's always good to say, is there any possibility of feedback? Because they may give you it. Some organisations, as a matter of course, don't give feedback on unsuccessful proposals under like a certain value limit. But it's always worth asking, because if they say your quality was great, but your pricing was wrong, then you can choose whether maybe you're going to raise it, lower it, or maybe you're just going to look for a client in a different place. And we'll talk about that in this market position in a minute. So just to do a bit of a recap, to figure out the market rates, great things to do are research, get yourself snooping around, looking everywhere. One of the things you can research is also to look at who won bids and what they won the value at, and try and reverse engineer it. Ask your customers what they're paying. Trial and error, talking to clients and potential clients. So those are all the things around market rates. I'm going to have a wee drink of water. I've got a bit of a frog in my throat this week. So the second part of those key principles is your market position. And this is the one that you choose. You're entirely in control of how you choose to position yourself in the market. So if you've done the pricing module that's in this, or you've been in the corporate method, you'll know that I talk about 4 market positions. One of them is low price. So this is a sort of stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap idea. Totally valid business model. Although these are in ascending order of price, one is not better than the other as a business model, because there are some things that low value and low price is a great business model for some things. Mid-range, high range, and then boutique. So you know the key features of these by now. But really, when it comes to choosing your position, what you've got to think about are a couple of things. So does your product or service work well for stack 'em high, sell 'em cheap? My own experience is that if you're a small business, unless you make a product, that's generally not a great model, because to stack them high, which is deliver a lot of the same thing and sell it very cheap, generally means selling your time for a very low price. So that really doesn't work very often for small businesses, unless you've maybe got a huge agency model and you're running that. Small businesses find that quite hard. Now, I've got a couple of clients and a couple of small business colleagues who've got that low model for a product, and they sell lots and lots of something at a low price. Now, that works because their manufacturing chain and supply chain works in doing that. if that person was to convert that to them being the commodity, they just wouldn't make enough money. Mid position is where you are at mid-market rate, you're fairly competitive, you're delivering a good level of customer service, you're around about the same price as your competitors, and that's where a lot of people will enter the market. High price is obviously you're at the upper end of the range. You are definitely delivering excellent customer service. You probably have a small number of high value clients. And in the corporate sector, that probably means you are selling to multiple parts of the corporate business. So as you evolve your business, you'll be selling to more than one team within that large business in that model. Boutique is a similar price point and similar customer service to high. However, there will be something different or special about what you're doing. So it will be a unique service, or there's a unique part of it. There'll be some sort of unique offering. It might be that you are an absolute expert in your field, or you're in such a niche that there are very few of you or only one of you delivering that thing. And you're completely in control of how you choose to be low, mid, high, or boutique. It's a deliberate business strategy, and all of your marketing and all of your business choices should reflect that. So if you went for the low model, so you said, I'm going to sell 1,000 widgets every week and I'm going to sell them at £1 each, you're not going to have a massively glamorous campaign necessarily. You're not going to have luxury touch points. You're not going to phone every customer every week, because your customer service, your marketing, your branding is going to reflect what you've got. And if you look at if you look at the airlines, for example, if you look at the difference between, say, Emirates or Qatari, I am not promoting any particular airlines, by the way, but if you look at the difference in their marketing and how they present the flight experience compared to Ryanair or EasyJet, they're telling you what you're going to get. So Ryanair aren't like, hey, come on board. When it comes to, nighttime, we're going to tuck you in. There'll be a cozy blanket. They're like, get in there, sit down, get off at the other end. So that's a deliberate strategy from them. They don't want you to think that you're getting a more luxurious experience than what you're paying for, because they want your expectation to meet what you've paid for. So you want to think about all of this in your pricing when you're thinking about what that point is. And some of you will probably already have entered the market at one of these points already. So this is just about you thinking a bit more deeply about, well, what is it I want customers to think about me before they have that experience with me? So really relevant to how you want to do business. And those two things combined, your place in the market and what the market rate are, determine what you can charge, because that perception that you're giving clients and that knowledge that you have about your own business helps you determine what you can charge. So if you are at mid-rate and the market rate is, say, £1,000 a day, let's keep the math simple, then if the market rate is £1,000 a day, if that's the average, then you can charge £1,000 and a little bit either side of it. If you were, for example, higher boutique, you're going to be able to charge more in the £1,500 for a day rate. I'm just using simple examples where if you're high end, you're likely to be able to charge between 20 and 50% more than if you were at mid-market rate. But remember, your strategy, your marketing and what you offer has to be aligned back to that. So some people want to be at the high rate, but actually when they then look at their business model and what they'd have to deliver, they think, I'd be as well at that £1,000 a day, because that works better for the time I want to spend, the customer experience I can deliver. Just let one in. So you want to think carefully about those things. I'm going to stop because I think it might be a good point to take any questions on that before I move on to the next bit. So let's say this is a kind of interactive one. So Kalini, you've got a question. Go for it. Oh, you're on mute, Kalini.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify, you just said that with the mid, if say, for example, it was 1,000, you said you could charge a little bit either side. Then you said one was 20 to 50% more. Was that the high or was that the boutique?
That's high. High and boutique are generally the same price point. They just have slightly different models of what makes them one or the other.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
It's all right. Anyone else? Lynn, got a question?
I'll just say something just based on the experience that I've had recently and how difficult I found it, and how actually in my head it's so quite painful because of the emotional attachment to just in case it resonates with other people. Even though I can take it apart and put it together for somebody else, doing it for me, I sort of found myself, and it's like, but surely I can't charge, surely, and I, when I, do you know, and then when I look at actually for us, and something that we've just started with recently, you know, had I proposed really way up where it was supposed to be, you know, I just felt I couldn't go and ask the woman for £100,000. I thought she might have a heart attack, right? And so it's also that balance as well, and maybe when it's for smaller businesses, for us when we're in Scotland, I have to acknowledge that too. And I find it, just to say, I found it very, very difficult. I want to get it right, and I, you know, and I want to match with what it is that I'm doing. But I, you know, having a meeting with the regional managing director of Galliford Try on the 13th of October, when I go to speak to him, I want to make sure I really, really got it right when I'm proposing what we can potentially do, or what we can do for them.
Especially when Galliford Try just announced 50% uptake on their profits today. 50% increase in their profits. I mean, that's excellent news for them. And they are a quality company. So I've had Galliford Try work for me as a contractor before, doing a restoration of a listed building. They pride themselves on a quality output. So they're not going to be looking for a bargain basement service.
Brilliant.
And that's where, you know, you could go in too low and actually it would price them out. If you came in a bit high, you leave yourself room for negotiation. None of us want to be negotiating that bottom bit. And you're right, it's easy for me to say, detach from the emotion, you know, do this very business-like. I know myself, especially when I'm pricing something new or in a new market, I'm like, can I really put that out there? Like, what are they going to say? You know, I've got a proposal to go to an existing client this week. It's a much bigger proposal than we've sent them before. So the numbers are a bit more, because if they buy a lot of it, you know, it's a big order. So there's always that, oh, should I press send, or should I just knock some money off? And I'm like, stop it. What are you even thinking about? You know how much money they waste on nonsense? Send them the proposal. But it is emotional. So now, have you got a question next?
Oh, hi everyone. Carol, how much different should the price be if it's face-to-face or streaming?
Is this for training, do you mean?
Yes.
Because for consultancy, we don't charge any different. So for our standard consultant, it's no difference whether they get us to do it remotely or whether we do it in their office. The only difference we charge is our expenses. For training, I charge differently. So at the moment, it's a little bit dependent on my market rate. So my market rate in Canada is a lot higher than my market rate in the UK. So in the UK, I charge 2 to 3 times more for in-person than I do for a streaming service.
Thank you. And I just wanted to share that post that I put up about the event that you did face-to-face. It seems to have 800 or something impressions. So thank you to everyone that might have liked it or put a comment. Somebody on LinkedIn picked me up from that, dropped me an email message, and we're currently and that's why I was asking you about pricing on the group. And we're currently having a conversation about, they've got a day of seminars and they're also streaming it as well, but it's in Berlin. And we actually had a Zoom chat yesterday, and he was just like, you'll be perfect for the women in leadership. You've got where you've come from, what you've done. And then he went, but how much would it be? What would be the fee? And I had you in my head going, what would Carol say? What would Carol say? So I said, oh, do you have a budget for this? And they said, well, you know, I'm the consultant and I have to put it to the powers that be. So I said, well, depending on how long you want the session to be, it will be between 2 and 3 grand. And I was just like confidently saying it, but inside my heart was beating like, you know, it tripled in the way it was beating. I was like, am I actually saying this to this guy on Zoom? And he's come back saying, can I send a proposal? Because they're interested in getting me out there. And I was like, yeah, yes. And I was like, really? Hold on. You teach public speaking, Sonal. You teach confidence. What's wrong with you? But yeah, it was just, I wanted to share that. Like, I just, because I'd asked that question in the group, Cara, and you'd answered, and I just put it out there and thought, let's just see what happens. And then I don't know what the universe is doing at the moment, and I'm not woo-woo, but I went to the Harrow and Means business event today and had a lovely chat with Stanmore College and Harrow College, and got some, when I say a lovely chat, we spoke for 45 minutes.
Wow.
And they've given me the email address for the HR person, So actually, just another thing that I've learned was I was just randomly talking to people, saying what I do and how it impacts and the value and stuff. And I've kind of come away with all of these people, because I only took the business cards of the ones that I thought I wanted to follow up with. And it come home really excited. Got the hot water bottle now because it's really cold and it's raining. But really, when you just feel like, oh, they're asking for a proposal. Oh my God. Oh, yeah, I'm in that phase. And honestly, guys, if any of you get to that phase, it is awesome, but it's also really shit scary.
But I mean, I think that's fantastic. I feel like doing a round of applause, but I feel like on like video that feels like a little bit patronising. But I'm like, no, I think that we care, and we're like, go for it. And I think like the reality is, like, if you say 2,000 or 3,000, whether they go, oh, that's at our price range, or whether they go, send us a proposal, like you've got over that like low ball on yourself. So well done you. I know it's terrifying to ask for those big sums, because a bit in your brain goes, who the heck are you to ask for that money? And it's only when they say yes, you then go, great. Oh, can I actually deliver that? And you're like, of course I can. That's why I said it.
Yeah. And the
It's all
funny
a
thing
journey.
is, as a celebrant and Toastmaster, those are the rates that I charge, including my travel and, if I need hotel and all that stuff, which is separate. I charge that in my celebrant and Toastmaster. So I couldn't understand why internally, I think it was the corporate thing it's kind of, it was sitting on my shoulder going, corporate, no, you can't. Yeah, so that was really strange as well, that I could do it in that side of my business, but I couldn't. I struggled in this side, but I've got over that first hurdle, and they want me to send a proposal, and please everyone keep your fingers crossed.
All the fingers crossed. Well done. And Helen's saying she took my advice for one of our webinar. She's asked for 500. She'd probably have gone in lower, and they said yes right away. Oh, that's brilliant, Helen. Oh, I'm so pleased for that. That is excellent. That is absolutely excellent.
Well, should I report then that we got a deal for £21,750?
Yes, I didn't know that.
Well, we just got it signed, but had I gone in the top end, because it's Scotland and because I like the women and because I want to do the things and grow through that, and and we're newish, I just felt that it could have been a lot more than that, but I wanted it to work. But anyway, we did that. So
Brilliant. Well done. That's a big order. And like what Lynn's just referring to there as well is about some of your strategic pricing. So whilst you'll have like prices, like that's what I'm going to be charging, sometimes you might think, actually, I want an in here, and you might have a slightly different price just to get you in the door or somewhere, as long as you frame that as either, this is an introductory price, or this is, a specific strategic reason for doing it, then that's absolutely fine. You just don't want to go so low that it becomes difficult to ever get your prices up to the range you want to do. Excellent. I'm very excited at this. Lots of work. One of the clients, I don't think I can say what she does because it would identify her, but she's just done the corporate method. Some of you will definitely know her. She has landed a major celebrity as a client, but she's had to sign an NDA, so we can't say who it is or what it is, but I'm sure when you see the work she's doing, like that will come to fruition. You'll see her and be like, oh, I know her. It's very, very exciting. So let's move on a little bit and we'll come back to some more questions, because like I say, I wanted this to be a bit interactive today and just get to the root of like what's coming up for people. Lynn, yeah, I think Lynn's saying, is that paying cognitive dissonance? Yeah, it possibly is, yeah. So in the beginning, what's really useful to do is think about, while you're doing this trial and error, and some of you'll still be in that phase, is think about what your minimum day rate that you're prepared to work for is. So what is your commitment to yourself that you're not working for less than X? And write that down somewhere. My minimum day rate is. Then divide that by 8, and that's your minimum hourly rate. And write that down. My minimum hourly rate is X. And that's a really good thing to keep to yourself. Like, one thing that's a really good thing to do as small businesses is start to make some promises to ourselves, because I think we're always being asked by other people to compromise, whether that's on price or boundaries or time. Like, as a small business owner, you're quite often pulled in a lot of different directions with different demands. And it can be easy to, in order to meet them, to first give up what we need for ourselves. And I am speaking as a person guilty of that at times. And one of the things that I think is really useful to do is think, what are some of my promises to me? And this one around pricing, like, this is really important for me, because sometimes I get offered low value work and high volume. And I just, like, when I'm tempted, because sometimes it's like a big glamorous project and they're like, oh, they flatter you, they're like, we really want you, you'd be amazing for this. I'm like, oh, hook, line and sinker. And then they tell me the day rate and I'm like, oh, and I go back to, what was my commitment to me? My commitment is I don't work at those day rates. I don't care it's a year's work. I don't care it's 4 days a week and I don't have to do any business development or any hard work to bring in the cash. I don't work for those prices. So it's a really good commitment to have to yourself. What's your minimum day rate? Divide it by 8. What's your minimum hourly rate? And whatever that is, even if you're thinking, oh, I've heard some people that are, getting paid $5,000 for an hour's talk, and I'm not anywhere near that. It doesn't matter what the number is, as long as that number is okay with you. That's all it is. It's probably not going to be your minimum is 5,000 for an hour. That's not my minimum. I wish it was, but it's not. I'm not Kate Moss. I'm not like, I don't get out of bed for less than 10 grand. That is just not my reality. Because I'd be spending a lot of days in bed if it was. But whatever is okay for you is okay. You don't have to share it with other people. You just need to know, okay, that's a rate that if I need cash to come in, I'm going to work at that rate, but I'm never going below it. So have a think about that. The other thing I want to talk about is this trial and error methodology. So when you're doing trial and error, sometimes you're going to lose out on work because you are too high priced. And sometimes you're going to win work and then find out that you won it because you were low priced. You just kind of have to say, people talk about fail fast. And I read something this morning by someone who's a good ex-colleague and good friend. He's the chief executive of the Major Projects Association. And he said, we should stop talking about failing fast and talk about learning fast. And I think that's a good way to frame it. Like, if we make those mistakes and errors, and believe you me, you'll make them at all stages of your business on pricing, let's just learn fast from them. So if we win work that they bite our hand off and we think, could it be more expensive? So what? We've learned that we pay more, we charge more. If the lesson is, actually, that was way too high priced, what we might want to look at is not just bringing the price down. We might want to think, okay, is there too much in my offer? So could I actually reduce what I'm offering to do in order to bring my price down? Because we might not just want to start slashing and burning our prices. And that's been a lesson for us in how we actually put proposals out to the market now. So something I'm developing that's going out tomorrow, hopefully. What day is today? Wednesday, no, it'll go out on Friday. So we'll develop my proposal for a client. And rather than just having one thing that's one price, we're actually going to them saying, here are 3 options that you can have. You can have this piece, and this piece, and they all cost that. Or individually, here's the cost of them. Now, I wouldn't have done that in my first proposal to them, but we work with this client a lot. And what I've realised is that they will buy based on whatever budget they've got. And so I know what my value is in terms of delivering the content for them and what the options are. But I also know that whatever their budget is will determine how many of those things they buy and in what volume. So I want to give them room to play around with my proposal and go, okay, 1 of those, 5 of those and 7 of those. And you can start to develop that as you go yourself, where you're going, and this doesn't work in a bid because you've only got one option, but where you're putting a proposal because you're in a dialogue with a client, you can actually say, these are the outlines that I've got, these are the costs. If you want to have a discussion about how this could meet your needs, you're keeping that doorway open to discussion without saying all my prices are up for negotiation. And you can put in a little line that we sometimes put at the bottom of a proposal that says, I'll check my exact wording and put it in the group actually, but it says something along the lines of prices subject, price up for negotiation, or price subject to negotiation. I've forgotten the words now. I've probably told about 10 of you this exact phrase that I use, and I've now forgotten about it. I think we said price negotiable subject to discussion. That's what it is, price negotiable subject to discussion. Now, some things we don't put that on because if it's a day rate for consultancy, that's my day rate. Where it's a bigger training package or something a bit novel, basically where I'm like, I'm not quite clear on the pricing, I might put that in. On one occasion, they came back and said, we'd actually like you to add more. How much would that be? On another one, they came and said, well, if we bought 50, how much would that be? Would you give us a discount on the individual unit price? At which point I was like, I thought they were buying 5. So yes, I will give them a discount. So that's that piece around, like, learn fast, figure out as quick as you can where those options are going to be for you to move around on pricing. Olivia's saying she loves that, learn fast versus fail fast. Yeah, I loved that when I read it this morning. I thought, that is why he is in that role. He is a very smart man, but I like that idea of it for pricing. Okay, other things I wanted to just share with you before we do some final Q&A. If you are working with government, a really good price guideline is that there's something called the contingent labour price. And the contingent labour price is basically, if they had you working as a contractor, this is what the maximum day rate is that they can pay you without having to go for sign off at a very senior level. And that's £1,000. So if you're ever working for government as any sort of contracted role, this is slightly different really from consultancy, but if you're in any sort of contractor role, £1,000 is their maximum rate. Now that means you're working at the top of your game, you're working on something very important, you're definitely going to have a professional qualification or experience of some sort, and you're working on something fairly prestigious. So that's just a guide of, that's their top rate that they pay for contingent labour without them having to go and put a big case to government to pay you more. Consultancy rates are different because that's different from contingent labour. If you're doing contingent labour, you're generally falling within the IR35 rates. And if you're a small business, you might absolutely want to supplement your income at times by doing some contracting work. But what I would say is you have to make sure that you know what the implications of that are for you, because it's quite a punitive tax regime. It's a great way of getting some quick cash in, but you just want to make sure you understand what the implications of that are, because if you're a limited company and you're drawing out money as a dividend, then that has an implication on you using up your personal allowance for tax purposes. I can't give anyone like detailed advice on it because I would ask an accountant, and that's what I would recommend. But anytime you're doing any sort of contractory stuff, just make sure you know what the implications of that are for you. Okay, so I think that's it for today. I hope that's been useful. As I say, I wanted to just follow on from the original pricing module. So if you haven't watched the original pricing module, watch that. And then watch this, especially if you're joining this live, just follow on from these. And let's go to questions. Oh, Olivia's got a good question. What's your thought on beta pricing running a new programme? I would say that the phrase like beta pricing is definitely quite well known in sort of small businessy circles, especially in the online and digital marketing world. It's a bit less well known in the corporate sector. They think of beta more as like a beta launch, as in if you're launching a website and you're launching the beta version, it's trial. So I would say You can certainly use introductory pricing, and I mean, it's like the trial and error thing. You can try it. I'm not sure when I worked in corporate, if someone had said it was a beta price, I would have known what they meant, because I'd have thought, I would have thought of like IT rollouts in terms of that, or technology rollouts, but that just might be my sector because I work in a technical sector. I think you can certainly offer something as an introduction. I did that in the beginning when I first brought out some stuff for sponsors, because I wanted to basically test the market a little bit. I went to a couple of people I knew and said, hey, I'm going to do this new thing. I'm trialing it out. I'm working it out as I go. I called it a pilot. So I'm running a pilot. Would you want to come in at this price? And they both sort of took me up on that offer, gave me the chance to try the thing I was doing, see if I liked it, see if it worked. And then I immediately went to the new price for it. So it's definitely worth that. Yeah, so Olivia's saying, makes sense. Beta wasn't sitting well either, like introductory or pilot pricing. Yeah, we're actually about to bring something out for our corporate market, which is a digital product. So it's a digital course, which we'll run as like a live training and coaching thing. And then it will go to being completely online. It's a bit novel for us. It's kind of running in the style of the corporate method, but on a different platform. So it'll be on our corporate platform. And that will definitely, we'll talk about that as it being either introductory or pilot. I can't remember what we've written down, but we wouldn't call it beta, because I know my clients just wouldn't necessarily respond to that. That's definitely small business online marketing chat for the beta stuff. Okay, other questions? Nope, we're all good. The other thing I'll just say then is we've got another pricing module, which is another pricing training. I think it's next week or the following week. And in that, I'm going to talk about dynamic pricing and pricing for different markets. So getting a bit more in depth and a bit more technical on that. So I would say if you're coming along to that, it's worth having your prices with you. So have like either them written out or have them available, because we'll talk in a bit of detail about dynamic pricing and how you can adjust that for different. I won't go into it in loads of detail now, but go into it in different markets, different locations, different offers, how you can play about with some things to see what lands. So next time we will be doing dynamic pricing, which I love. I could spend hours on it. It's not everyone's cup of tea, so I get that some of you will be like, I just want you to tell me the information, but I want to give you some of the insight as to how you actually build a dynamic pricing structure in your business. All right, well, lovely to see you all. And thank you so much for today. As you can probably guess, I really like the pricing side. My academic background in business comes out in this. I'm like, I like this. As Zane, I don't know off the top of my head when my next training is. If it's not on Facebook, I'll go. It might not have created as an event. We've had some real Facebook glitches this 2 weeks, so I will go in and see. I think it's next week. I've got a feeling it is next week. But I will see. I'm just looking at the rest of the comments, just people saying thank you. I'm glad you've enjoyed it. I have enjoyed it too. 2 in September on pricing. That's a good September. For October, I have asked 2 people to come in and talk about money mindset. 2 real experts in the field, one on the investing side, one on the how we think about money side. So really people I totally respect and would go to for their advice. One of them, I've followed her investing advice. And for November, we've asked someone to come in and do the legal contract side, which people had asked for. And December, I'm going to keep that a surprise for now, what we're doing in December. All right, I will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your day. And yeah, well done everyone who's knocking out the park. The rest of you, follow on. Let's do it. See you, folks.